Good evening, everybody. This is Srinjoy Mitra from Kolkata, and I'm going to say a story, A Face in the Dark by Ruskin Bond. Mr. Oliver, an Anglo-Indian teacher, was returning to his school late one night on the outskirts of the hill station of Shimla. From before Kipling's times, the school had been run on English public school lines, and the boys, most of them, were from wealthy Indian families as they wore blazers, caps, and ties. Life magazine, in a feature on India, had once called it the Eton of the East. Mr. Oliver had been teaching in this school for several years now. The Simla Bazaar, with its cinemas and restaurants, was about 3 miles from the school. And Mr. Oliver, a bachelor, usually strolled into the town in the evening, returning only after dark, when he would be taking a shortcut through the pine forest. When there was a strong, eerie sound, the pine trees made sad sounds that kept most people to the main road. But Mr. Oliver was not a nervous or imaginative man. He carried a torch, and its gleam, the batteries were running down, moved fitfully down the narrow forest path. When its flickering light fell on the figure of a boy who was sitting alone in the rock, Mr. Oliver stopped. Boys were not allowed to be out after dark. "What are you doing here, boy?" asked Mr. Oliver, sharply, moving closer so that he could recognize the miscreant. But even after he approached the boy, Mr. Oliver sensed that something was wrong. The boy appeared to be crying, his head held down, his face hung down, and his body shook convulsively. It was a strange, soundless weaving that made Mr. Oliver distinctly uneasy. "Well, what's the matter?" he asked, his anger giving way to concern. "What are you crying for?" The boy would not answer or look up. His body continued to be racked with silent sobbing. "Come on, boy, you shouldn't be out here at this hour. Tell me the trouble. Look up." The boy looked up. He took his hands from his face and looked up at his teacher. The light from Mr. Oliver's torch fell on the boy's face, if you could call it a face. It had no eyes, ears, mouth, nothing at all. It was just a round, smooth head with a school cap on top of it. And that's where the story should end. But for Mr. Oliver, it did not end there. The torch fell from his trembling hand. He turned and scrambled down the path, running blindly through the trees and calling for help. He was still running towards the school buildings, where he saw a lantern swinging in the middle of the path. Mr. Oliver stumbled up to the watchman, gasping for breath. "What is it, Sahib?" asked the watchman. "Has there been an accident? Why are you running?" "I saw something horrible. A boy weeping in the forest, and he had no face." "No face, Sahib? No eyes, nose, mouth, nothing?" "Do you mean it was like this, Sahib?" asked the watchman, and raised the lamp to his own face. The watchman, too, had no eyes, no ears, no features at all, not even an eyebrow. And that's when the wind blew the lamp out. Thank you.